The night I matched with Elise on Tinder was supposed to be the beginning of something beautiful, but little did I know it would spiral into the most horrifying experience of my life. Stay until the end to discover what happened when I finally realized the truth about my perfect match. As I swiped through profiles on that cold October evening, her face immediately caught my attention. Those piercing blue eyes seemed to look directly into my soul, and her smile held a mysterious allure that I couldn't resist. We matched instantly, almost too perfectly, as if some unseen force had aligned our digital paths. The conversation flowed effortlessly, each message revealing another layer of compatibility between us. Her interests mirrored mine with uncanny precision, and her sense of humor matched my own as if she had been studying me for years. Within 3 days of messaging, she suggested meeting at her place rather than a public location, claiming she preferred intimate settings for first dates to truly get to know someone. Against my better judgment and ignoring the warning bells ringing faintly in the back of my mind, I accepted her invitation, captivated by the prospect of meeting someone who seemed to understand me so completely. Her apartment was located in an old Victorian building on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that might have been grand once but now stood weathered by time and neglect. As I approached the entrance, a stray cat darted across my path, its yellow eyes reflecting the dim streetlight before disappearing into the shadows with an unsettling hiss. The elevator was out of order, so I climbed the creaking stairs to the 5th floor, each step amplifying my anticipation and the strange unease that had begun to settle in my stomach. The hallway leading to her apartment was dimly lit, with flickering lights that cast dancing shadows on the peeling wallpaper, creating illusions of movement from the corner of my eye. When I finally reached apartment 513, I hesitated for a moment before knocking, suddenly aware of the complete silence that enveloped the building, as if it were holding its breath. Elise opened the door before my knuckles could make contact with the wood, standing before me with that same mesmerizing smile from her profile picture, yet somehow different in person, more predatory than I had imagined. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this terrifying Tinder tale so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my future stories. Now let's get back to what happened next in this nightmare date. Her apartment was sparsely furnished but immaculately clean, almost sterile, with walls adorned with strange abstract paintings that seemed to depict human figures in various states of distortion. The lighting was unusually dim, with most of the illumination coming from dozens of candles scattered throughout the space, their flickering flames creating an atmosphere that wavered between romantic and ritualistic. She had prepared dinner, a hearty stew that she insisted I try immediately, watching intently as I took my first spoonful, her eyes never leaving my face as I swallowed the unusually bitter concoction. The conversation during dinner felt one-sided, with Elise asking deeply personal questions about my family, my fears, and my past relationships, while offering vague, rehearsed-sounding answers when I attempted to learn more about her. As the evening progressed, I began to feel strange, my vision blurring around the edges and my limbs growing increasingly heavy, making it difficult to maintain my composure as the room seemed to tilt and shift around me. When I mentioned feeling unwell, Elise's expression changed momentarily, a flash of something cold and calculating replacing her warm demeanor before she quickly masked it with concern, offering me water that tasted oddly metallic. I tried to stand, to excuse myself and leave, but my legs buckled beneath me, sending me crashing to the floor as Elise watched calmly, making no move to help as my consciousness began to fade in and out. The last thing I remembered before blackness claimed me completely was Elise kneeling beside me, whispering words in a language I didn't recognize as she stroked my face with fingers that felt abnormally cold against my feverish skin. I awoke to complete darkness, disoriented and with a pounding headache that made every heartbeat feel like a hammer striking my skull, and when I tried to move, I realized with mounting horror that my wrists and ankles were bound securely to what felt like a hard wooden surface. Panic surged through me as I strained against my restraints, the rough material cutting into my skin as I called out desperately, my voice echoing in what seemed to be a large, empty space. After what felt like hours but could have been minutes, soft footsteps approached, and a door creaked open, allowing a sliver of light to penetrate the darkness before Elise's silhouette appeared in the doorway. She entered carrying a candelabra, the light revealing that I was in some sort of basement, tied to a wooden table surrounded by strange symbols etched into the concrete floor, forming concentric circles around where I lay helpless. When she spoke, her voice had changed completely, deeper and with an accent I couldn't place, as she explained that she had been searching for someone like me for a very long time, someone whose energy signature matched precisely what she needed for her work. With methodical precision, she began setting up what looked like ancient artifacts around the table, explaining in a detached tone that dating apps had revolutionized her search, allowing her to filter through thousands of potential subjects to find the perfect match based on the digital energy people unwittingly left on their profiles. My pleas fell on deaf ears as she continued her preparations, mixing herbs and powders in a stone bowl while chanting softly, occasionally pausing to check an ancient-looking book with yellowed pages covered in faded text and disturbing illustrations. She told me that every 100 years, her kind needed to perform this ritual to maintain their existence in our world, requiring a human vessel whose spiritual frequency aligned with the cosmic gateway they sought to keep open. As she lifted a ceremonial dagger that gleamed wickedly in the candlelight, she assured me that my sacrifice would not be in vain, that parts of my consciousness would live on within the entity that would use my body as an anchor in this reality. I struggled frantically against my bonds, fueled by terror and the primal will to survive, but succeeded only in drawing blood where the ropes bit into my flesh, which seemed to please Elise as she collected the crimson droplets in a small silver cup. The chanting grew louder as she circled the table, occasionally stopping to mark my forehead, chest, and palms with symbols using a brush dipped in a dark substance that burned like acid where it touched my skin. Just when I had begun to accept that this nightmare would be my end, a thunderous crash echoed through the basement as the door was kicked open, flooding the room with harsh artificial light that seemed to cause Elise physical pain, making her shriek and shield her eyes. Silhouetted in the doorway stood a woman I recognized from one of the apartments I had passed on my way up, someone who had glimpsed me entering Elise's apartment and grown suspicious after hearing about other disappearances in the building over the past several months. In the chaos that followed, Elise transformed before my eyes, her human facade melting away to reveal something ancient and inhuman, with elongated limbs and skin that seemed to shift and ripple like smoke underwater. The woman, who I later learned was a retired occult specialist who had been tracking similar cases for years, engaged in a battle of wills with the creature, reciting protective incantations that seemed to weaken what had once been Elise, forcing it into a corner where it writhed and shrieked in otherworldly tones. Using the distraction, my rescuer quickly cut through my restraints and helped me to my feet, urging me toward the exit as she continued to hold the creature at bay with words that seemed to physically repel it. We barely made it out of the building before a supernatural implosion shook the structure to its foundation, windows shattering outward as a high-pitched wail echoed through the night, followed by an unnatural silence that felt heavier than any sound. Authorities investigated the building but found no trace of Elise or any evidence of what had transpired in that basement, save for the strange symbols that had been burned into the concrete, defying all attempts to remove or explain them. My rescuer explained that the entity had been using dating apps across the country for years, creating different identities to lure victims with specific spiritual markers, explaining the string of disappearances that had never been connected due to their geographic distribution and the seemingly voluntary nature of the victims' departures. I deleted all dating apps from my phone that night and have never returned to the world of online dating, too traumatized by the knowledge that some predators hunt in digital spaces, wearing human faces and studying their prey from behind friendly profile pictures. Sometimes I still wake in cold sweats, imagining those eyes watching me through my screen, waiting for me to lower my guard and once again seek connection through the algorithmic matchmaking that had led me into that nightmare. The most terrifying realization came months later when I recognized another profile while helping a friend set up his own dating account, the same piercing blue eyes and enigmatic smile staring back from the screen, under a different name but unmistakably the entity that had called itself Elise. I've tried to warn others about the dangers lurking behind seemingly perfect matches, about paying attention to the strange coincidences and too good to be true compatibilities that might signal something unnatural, but most dismiss my experience as paranoia or trauma-induced delusion. All I know for certain is that something ancient and hungry is still out there, swiping right on unsuspecting victims, learning and adapting its approach with each encounter, growing more sophisticated in its understanding of human desire and loneliness. So the next time your phone chimes with a notification of a new match, someone whose profile seems to reflect everything you've been searching for, remember my story, and ask yourself if the connection is genuinely human or something altogether more sinister waiting to learn just enough about you to make you its next perfect match. The true horror of modern dating might not be rejection or ghosting, but the possibility that the person you're sharing your innermost thoughts with never was a person at all, just a carefully crafted lure designed to draw you into darkness one private message at a time.